MSU, students at Michigan State University had the chance to learn life-saving skills through a program called Stop the Bleed. Now, this program teaches students what to do in case of an emergency where life-threatening bleeding is present.
And now it might seem obvious as to why somebody would want to learn these skills, but Claudia is in the studio to help us break down some of that information.
All right, so fair warning, this conversation is not for the faint of heart, but it is important stuff, and here's why. If somebody is severely bleeding, they can bleed to death in as little as 5 minutes. Now, that's important when you know that the average EMS response time is about 7 to 8 minutes. Now, why does this matter? Well, we can all be bystanders, and bystanders will always be the first on the scene. And when every minute counts, the actions bystanders take can be the difference between life and death. And a lot of times, the only difference is education. Take a look.
So I actually know what it's like when someone who hasn't had bleeding controlled before the ER comes in.
Elizabeth Montgomery knows all too well what happens when bystanders of accidents are equipped with life-saving skills. But she also knows what happens when they aren't.
They're really sick and sometimes don't make it.
Bleeding injuries can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. And when it comes to life-threatening bleeding, every second counts.
It could be just cutting yourself at home or witnessing a car accident. You know, it doesn't have to be an act of violence.
But in an accident or when it is an act of violence, just having knowledge of how to respond can be the life-saving difference. That's why the founder of the MSU Student Emergency Response Team is so passionate about teaching those skills to students, because he knows what a lack of preparedness can feel like.
Following the shooting incident on campus, we realized that students were not prepared in the scene of an emergency, and the scariest thing for a student is the feeling of helplessness. And so by providing these hands-on trainings, we're hoping to enrich the students with the skills and knowledge in order to respond in this emergency to potentially save a life.
But this week, Michigan State University helped put the power back into students' hands by teaching them how to respond in an emergency. The American College of Surgeons Stop the Bleed program were there to help. And with her experience as an EMT, Elizabeth was able to give important first-hand knowledge.
And the goal was to train civilians who have no medical experience how to respond to the event of like an act of violence or an accident, anything that would cause bleeding, and how to hold pressure, pack wounds, and apply tourniquets so that we can buy time for paramedics to get there.
I'd rather be proactive than just run away from an emergency, and that drives me to continue spreading these Stop the Bleed trainings for students in hopes of allowing them to have the skills and knowledge in order to respond if they feel comfortable to do so.
The Stop the Bleed campaign has trained over 3 million people, including students and teachers. And for a lot of instructors, it's become more than a job. It's a passion.
I'm really passionate about getting that word out there. I mean, the likelihood of one of them at some point needing to use these skills is really high, but just knowing that these students are leaving with a skill set that could save someone's life one day, it's a wonderful feeling, and I'm really happy to help them on that journey.
The Stop the Bleed program travels all over the country teaching students in different locations. So if you're curious about it, you can find more info at WILX.com.
No, a little bit goes a long way, obviously, and if we life-saving practices, and this is a good thing to know.
Absolutely. It's
like
incredible information that we have. So very exciting.
Exactly.
Well, the fun is just